Welcome, everyone, to the Nut Gallery podcast. We're the ones who bring you the news on the media that shapes your world.
Welcome to episode 189. I'm Jason Schulte.
I'm Sean McFadden.
And I'm Eric Anderson.
We're starting the conversation. Disney has announced that they're going to go back to some hand-drawn animations for some of their future projects.
That's fantastic. I feel like the last time their studio did some of their hand-drawn animations was some of their best things, like that early 2000 time frame. Those were some fantastic movies.
I'm just supporting this because that means that, A, this is an art form that isn't getting lost, and B, it's giving more of these different people an option out there as opposed to it just kind of falling to the wayside. So I'm happy about that.
And I think it may revisit some of the older properties, like Aladdin, for instance. I think they might revisit some of those properties so that the style is the same.
And I think you might have hit it right on the head there, because if they suddenly tried to make, for example, Aladdin and Jafar, computer animated, we'd all go, hey, hashtag not my Jafar.
Right. So that's where I think it's encouraging, is that they will hopefully revisit some of those properties. We all know that Hollywood has lost an original idea, so they do have to find ways to go back to their original ideas to move forward.
Regardless of if it's, a cynical reason or not, I see this one as a win-win.
Well, that'll move us right into a movie classic that was not hand-drawn, but it certainly used an older style of filmmaking. So, Sean, take it away.
Man, I'm still used to the old format. Okay. So it was my pick for a movie classic this month. And I realized that there was one that I thought that we had covered, and realized that I was mistaken, that we had not. Robin Williams classic, Jumanji, the original Jumanji, circa 1993, 94, right around there. It was Robin Williams, more, I'd like to say, in his heyday, but I'm not sure it was his heyday, but he was certainly having a pretty good 90s. And it was him being able to be a little wacky and crazy and running around and still getting to be, serious from time to time as well. So that was why I had picked it. And Jay, why don't you go ahead and start us off with this one?
I did just want to say it's 95.
Oh, I was pretty darn close.
Yeah. I will not argue this pick. I think the original Jumanji is certainly a classic in many ways. The story follows a child who has gone missing, I guess. And I guess I don't even know how to describe the story particularly, other than they get trapped in a game, and the game has some real life implications. It's a board game. Now, don't go out and buy the actual board game because it's terrible, but
which is really funny because you can find it everywhere now.
But have you seen like the Etsy creations where they actually make it magnetized and move on its own and stuff like that? That is so cool looking. Like, I would have it just for that alone. Even if the game is terrible, popping that open and having pieces move on their own. Ooh, that
is cool. But anyways, it uses 90s style filmmaking. So when there's an alligator attacking them, there's a prop alligator flopping around, and it's clearly what it is, but it's still great. Real moving sets that move, and the cast is interacting with. It's not green screen. And anyone who's listened to this now for 180 some times has realized I do appreciate that style. So you're not getting any arguments from me. I like the cast. I've even looked them up to see where they have gone since a couple times.
One of them kissed Spider-Man.
Yeah. So, and of course we've lost Robin Williams, but I still really enjoy all the aspects of this film. And I will say, though we're not talking about them, I feel like the newer ones have found a way to still be good, despite how good this is.
I agree. And if you like, I do have the tagline for the movie here. Jumanji, one of the most unique and dangerous board games ever, falls into the hands of a curious teen, Alan Parrish, in 1969. Mysterious and magical, the game strands the unsuspecting boy in the lush, savage forests of a mythical realm. Nearly 3 decades later, the game releases him from the awed eyes of the young orphan siblings, Judy and Peter Shepard. Now the wild and incessant beat of the jungle's tribal drums is calling for the now adult Alan and the other hesitant players, as the one who rolls the dice must never leave undone what the roll has started. Has anyone escaped from the game and Jumanji's formidable foes? And yeah, so did you have more there, Jason, or would you like me to pass on to Ark? I'm going to assume he was done. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. So I watched this many, many years ago. It might even be 2 decades at this point. I remembered when I watched it when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate it as much. Like I was like, it's okay. It's just there. But rewatching it, man, it was really good. Like I think it's aged amazingly well. I actually forgot that Kirsten Dunst was in the movie. Like I was like, holy cow, that's there. I was like, oh my,
Me too.
wow. Totally forgot that. I did remember that Robin Williams was in it, and he does a phenomenal job. Like it's his just like his other movies, his charisma, his acting style, it's just so good. And I have to say, one of the things that I felt as I was watching it, this is a fantastical movie by day, but it is actually quite the suspense thriller by night. Like there are some absolutely nightmarishly evocative scenes from some of the stuff that comes out of the board game. And I will admit that most of those scenes are kind of blunted by Robin Williams' humor and charisma, but still on their own, it's kind of a dark-ish movie with like comedy that lightens it.
I can see how you'd say that a little bit. The animals and everything escaping there, especially the first one with the wasps there and people just kind of like just keeling right on over.
Right. Like I was like, holy cow, like it was like 58 or 60 people are like hospitalized, and like I'm like, whoa. I will admit that some of the effects, as you were just mentioning, Jason, were just so fantastic. To me, the one that I remembered from when I was younger, and I still think it's great, is watching the vine take the car and fold it into the like forest. I was like, that's awesome. Like, and just the actor who reacts to it is like, fine, take the car. I don't care. It's like just awesome. As far as what I didn't like as much as some of the effects, as they are 90s effects, as you said, Jason, haven't aged quite as well. The monkeys themselves looked kind of painfully CGI affected there. And the scene with the killer plants, again, that was also a little not as great an effect. And the other thing, as I was watching it, I felt like the characters got over their hellish trials just a shade too quickly sometimes. Like, oh my God, what terror did we just deal with? Now, where are those dice? I think it's my turn. Like it just felt a little too quick sometimes. but maybe it was the fact that like when you roll, it really is going after you as opposed to everyone. So maybe they're like, well, that thing didn't affect me. I'm probably going to be fine, right? I don't know. Either way, though, I loved it now. I don't think I had an appreciation for the timeless feel that the movie had evoked back then, but I do feel like I did notice it now, and I absolutely think it is a classic.
I would agree, Eric, that when it came out, it was just another movie. But I think now when you watch it, it's like it's Jumanji. It is the movie that is great, and I think there's a lot of movies in that era that have become that way. This one included. I'll support that statement as it is.
All right, I'll slide on in here. Eric,
You hated it.
No, I did not. Eric beat me to one of my points there is that some of the effects still stand up. For example, as Eric said, the car being pulled into the forest by the vine, absolutely 100%. At that point, I was like, really? This car is still running? This car's there.
That car was the hero. Like that thing kept going.
That effect totally stands out. The stampede, while you can tell a little bit is aged and that CGI technology has gotten much better, it still stands pretty well. The one that kind of makes you go, really? Is the close-ups of any of the monkeys, because they weren't quite there yet. I think it was almost just like the gray of the eyes. That's what that kind of did it for me. But on the other hand, phenomenal acting. And yes, Kirsten Dunst was in this, and so many other people, but we can't help but mention being helmed by good old Robin Williams there, who just is a force of personality. You can't be in the movie and then humdrum it along and then have Robin Williams tear across the set, come on, let's go, and you just be yeah, I don't think that's possible. As long as we're talking about the effects, though, I did watch this on a VHS, I should mention, because we did bust out the original VHS tape. So
did you remember to rewind it? Because Blockbuster charges you if you don't rewind it.
You know what? If I can find a Blockbuster, I might return it. But in fact, the scene at the end with the spiders, I was totally able to watch, even though I do not care for them, because that effect, I was like, ooh, those are plastic spiders that someone's just jiggling around with a cord. But so all of those small points aside, because let's be honest, 100%, those are very small points that I have pointed out here. The overall arc, the story of the movie, the characters, the development, the action, the suspense, all of that is top notch. So when I'm pointing out like, hey, this one little effect didn't quite translate, it means that I've gotten down to the point to where I need to find a small detail to say, hey, blah, blah, blah. And those are small details, because overall, I think Jumanji is a classic. And I think because of the recent newer Jumanjis, people have kind of gone, well, wait a minute, I haven't seen the original Jumanji in forever. Let's go take a look again. And so I don't think we're the only ones going back there to revisit Jumanji, because it had been, I think I'm right in the same boat as you, Ark. I think it was probably about 20 years since I had seen Jumanji. So there were a lot of the movie that I was like, oh, right. So
I did remember one other thing I wanted to say, if I can jump back in super quick. So I was actually thinking about the movie Jumanji from the lens of a modern day storytelling type thing. Like, how would I try to tell this. And for any of you who enjoy creepy, suspenseful type thing, the horror thriller concept of the SCP, which is a item that has some sort of bizarre, creepy, supernatural powers or something like that, and how you would like quantify it. I'm like, oh man, the board game Jumanji is a time altering, reality altering type thing. It's like if you go online, you can look up like these SCPs, which are all creepy stories and things like that. But it's like it describes what it does and how it works. And it's like, oh man, it alters reality and can rewrite time. And like, oh yeah, it's a really, really bizarre type, like horror thriller concept. The other thing I wanted to say also was the character of Van Pelt, I thought was such a fantastic, creepy hunter villain, like him walking into the gun store to buy a new or get ammo and then get a new weapon. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
So Eric, I was going to talk about that character a little bit. So, and you'd mentioned that this was, by light, it's kind of a comedy. By night, it's kind of scary. I felt like he provided the most danger.
Oh, yes.
Like of all of the characters, like the lion in the house, you're like, yeah, he's not going to eat him. That's not going to happen. But him like shooting that gun and like the way he was pursuing them.
Yes.
I think I felt the most danger for the characters. Like, this could end badly.
Yes.
And so even like the alligator and the dancing spiders and things, I wasn't as like concerned for the character's well-being. But when he emerged, it's like, okay, he could really screw this up for them. So,
and he even, someone else is like, okay, you got me. And it's like, no, I'm not after you. You didn't roll the dice. And I was like, oh, but Ash was the one, my girlfriend pointed out that Van Pelt, the hunter, is played by the dad.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that is such a cool, cool thing. And I'm like, that's just really cool, especially considering, that Robin Williams eventually plays Hook. So, but yeah, that was a cool effect. I liked that. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Though the lion, I'm not sure that was a digital lion. I'm leaning toward, because that's the one that if that was a digital effect, someone knocked that one out of the park. I'm reasonably certain that was a real lion hanging out on the bed. Just when they open up the door and the lion's like, hey, I'm in here. Oh, sorry, right. Like, anyway. Jay, we kind of cut you short there. Did you have any other thoughts on it?
No, I think that's fine. I think that it is definitely a classic. So,
okay. I say absolutely a classic. If a movie, released in 1995, I can still laugh at, be entertained by, and have those, holy S moments, of jumping because something's happening, then the movie did well, and the storyteller and everything did what they meant to do. And I call it classic.
And it was the impetus for its own, then later on, movies of its own style. Like, yes, the newer Jumanji movies are their own thing, but they reference and go back to the original. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to say absolutely a classic too.
Yes, absolutely. And as long as we're, go ahead.
They went back and referenced the movie though in such a classical way that just felt good. Like when you're watching the new movies and you see that reference, you're like, wow, great.
Yeah. And we've said it before, but I'll say it again. The new Jumanji movies are way better than they had any right to be.
And I also want to say that movies based on board games, not kind of like movies based on video games, not always great. I mean, I'm just gonna say,
not. Right.
I've seen Clue. I've seen, what was the other movie that was the Zaraya something? Zathura. Yeah, like no.
Clue was fantastic.
Okay.
Battleship, not so good.
Battleship, not so good. Anyway.
All right.
I mean,
Well,
Rihanna was firing the cannons. What could go wrong?
that statement in itself.
I think we can close the door now.
Jumanji, anonymous pick for being a classic.
Woo woo.
May movies. It's actually really small and really surprising that May is a small list. So right out the gate, May 6th is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think that's a highly anticipated movie that I don't have to say much more about. You're either been following along with these movies or you have not. If
I already
you
have my tickets. I'm ready to go.
So we'll go right to May 13th. In theaters and on Peacock is Firestarter, rated R for violent content. This is a remake of Firestarter that's based on the book by Stephen King. For more than a decade, parents Andy and Vicky have been on the run, desperate to hide their daughter, Charlie, from a shadowy federal agency that wants to harness her unprecedented gift for creating fire into a weapon of mass destruction.
The trailer for this looks really good. I don't think I ever saw the other movie that they made with the Firestarter, but this looks really good.
Yeah, Stephen King is not usually my jam personally, but watching the trailer, it's creepy cool. Like it has that very interesting vibe to it. So
I will say that I watched the original Carrie, and then when the remake came out, I watched it, and I thought the remake was better. When The Shining came out, it is a good movie. When they remade it into a TV miniseries, they did it better. So I'm hopeful that that this comes out better.
I like the one line because you can clearly see the parents like trying to guide their child here to be a good person, blah blah blah, and the line that she says, like I know, like I shouldn't burn people, but it feels good. And then you're like, oh, that could go. Oh.
Well, and when you think of the ways to die, burning is like up
in
there.
the horrible category.
Yeah, like yeah. So I think everyone can appreciate, like, it's probably in like the top 5 of like worst ways to go.
Yep, I'd agree. Yeah.
Also, May 13th is Love in Kilnerry. It's PG-13 for adult humor. So maybe that helps Eric with some of your questions on what we can say. The residents of a small remote town panic when the EPA announces mandatory changes to their chemical plant could cause a dramatic increase in their libido. Love in Kilnerry has won 45 awards and 26 nominations from festivals like Madrid International, San Diego International, New Hampshire, Soho, etc. So it has been on the indie circuit and won lots of awards. So it might just be that indie film you need to see, especially if your libido needs some work.
So I had not seen anything or heard anything about this. So I went to watch the preview, and legit, this is exactly what I wrote when I finished watching the preview. Wow. That looks hilarious.
Well, because it's like they kind of portray it as a very like conservative style town that suddenly like, oh yeah, someone just
Love potion number 9, baby.
love potion number 9, pump the primer on that libido a few times to get it going again.
And no one ever wants to think about grandma and grandpa having a good time, but I'm just saying you came from somewhere, okay? That's what I want to remind you.
Well, they better work in Funky Cold Medina somewhere into the soundtrack.
Oh my God. Haven't heard that in a
Minute.
2 decades.
All right, moving on to May 20th, Downtown Abbey, A New Era. This was originally planned for December 22nd release. I believe we talked about it back then. Again, Downtown Abbey fans will be flocking, I'm sure.
Do not care.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I shouldn't say things like that. I apologize to any Downton Abbey fans out there, but not my jam.
So moving right on to May 27th then, Top Gun Maverick. It is PG-13 for sequences of intense action and some strong language. Ace pilot Maverick aims to show the relevance of a good old-fashioned pilots in today's high-tech, drone-centric war environment. Stars Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, Ed Harris, Jennifer Connelly. It is a sequel to the 1986 film.
Wait, are they saying starring Val Kilmer? Because in the trailer, it's clear that he's dead in a picture on the wall.
Well, I'm guessing he will be in there in a flashback sequences type things.
Or his
All right.
voice or something.
I
like
know
that.
his son, his in-movie son, will be filling his role.
Which is really funny because even in the trailer, like we all know Tom Cruise not, a giant among men, but he's talking to the son just like straight up like, looking up at him. And I'm like, oh, I bet you Tom didn't care for that. But I'm surprised this movie actually did get made. I didn't think, because the original Top Gun was what, 1986?
586, yeah.
Yeah.
1986. I just said that
Oh, okay.
in my reading of the trailer.
So I mean, we're talking like 35 years later. This is, I'll be interested to see it. I really did enjoy, the original Top Gun. And yes, as a kid, I thought fighter jets were the coolest thing. So maybe that, had a little bit to do with it. But you know what? 35 years later, I've moved on past fighter jets, but they still seem pretty cool.
Well, in the month of May, though, there isn't a lot, to compete with. So it may do well at the late part of May when.
The late part.
Yeah. And finally, wrapping out May on May 27th is Bob Burgers. It is PG-13 for roots, just a material and language based on the TV series. So all of you Bob Burger fans will be heading on out to see that.
Being that it's my wife's favorite cartoon, I will absolutely be at the theater, I'm sure.
Really? She's a big Bob's Burgers fan, huh?
Bob's Burgers and Futurama. Those are her two things that she loves to death. So
all right then.
She's very excited about the remake or like the continuation of the Futurama series as well.
If I were to pick three, I would probably go 3 Firestarter, 2 Top Gun, and 1 Doctor Strange.
Yeah, put me down for CC on that. But 100%.
I have to say I'm going to be Doctor Strange 1, Bob's Burgers 2, and then I'd see Love and Kilnerry. Like there's a dark horse there. Like I think that's just going to be so riotous.
Well, Sean, what do you got for DVDs and home video and everything else that you could possibly want?
Your home streaming extravaganza. All right. So evidently May, not a lot coming out there, but hey, let's see what we got. Week of May 3rd, we've got The Outfit. A tailor in Chicago gets caught up in a gang shakedown. Week of May 10th, we've got Uncharted. That's with Tom Holland, of course. Mixed reviews on that one. Same with Dog with Channing Tatum. Of course, him trying to return his buddy's war dog, I guess would call it. We've got Abraham Lincoln, the story of Lincoln before he became president. So we've seen plenty of, stories of him as president, everything like that. This is a young Lincoln. Week of May 17th, we've got Licorice Pizza, which has been kind of running the indie circuit there a little bit. Young love in the 70s is really the short way to describe that one.
Everybody who talks about it talks highly of it.
It's getting some nice word of mouth there. Also, week of May 17th, we've got Belle, and I don't remember us talking about that, so I've got the bumper here. Suzu is a shy, repressed high school student with a love for singing. After falling into the virtual world, she takes on a persona of a confident and talented Belle. At the height of her popularity, a dragon wreaks havoc on her concert. Bewildered, Belle is determined to find out the beast's true identity of what ties, if any, it has to her mother's death years earlier. We have Sundown. Things go awry in Acapulco, and people start dying on a man's vacation. Basically, he went down there with his family, said he had forgotten his passport, and so he gets stuck in Acapulco, and basically things start going badly down there.
Other than the dying, that doesn't seem a bad place to get stuck.
Tyson's Run. A 15-year-old autistic boy wants to compete in a marathon. Watching the bumper for this, I'm not sure how to say this politely, but the acting does not seem up to par. The main character, Tyson, is a 15-year-old autistic boy. And I can only imagine how difficult that is to portray, but the whole acting during the trailer was very stilted, and it wasn't just from him. So I don't think that one's going to go too well unless it really does have kind of a heart-tugging story.
Well,
there.
To make you feel like a schmuck is I'm pretty sure that boy who played that role was autistic in real life.
No, well, then I said it wasn't just that, wasn't him all alone there, but it was the whole bit of it felt a bit stilted, but I'll take my licking there. Week of May 24th, we've got The Batman with Robert Pattinson and the title character.
Currently out on HBO Max if you have it.
It is. I just watched it, actually. X, a film.
Is your opinion as high of it as Mike's?
No.
Okay.
A film crew is beset by an elderly woman who is killing them off. And finally,
that was for X. We were talking to distinguish between Batman and you're talking about X. It's just so compressed.
That was that's the new Batman villain.
That was a 2-for-1 is what that was.
Week of May 31st, The Devil You Know. Family gets caught up in a murder investigation. And that is your home video releases.
Outside of Batman, I could not really have a whole lot to go after there. Licorice Pizza might be okay just because of all the talk about it, but
I still do want to see the outfit. I didn't get a chance to go see that in the theater, and I'm still interested to see how that goes.
It looks interesting. I'd give that a watch. Also, I do want to check out Uncharted and Abraham Lincoln. Plus, as Jay said, a lot of people are giving positive buzz to Licorice Pizza. It does not seem like my type of movie, though, so gotta stay away from that one. And I'll chat with Batman at the end here.
Well, then go right into video games since you're covering that as well.
I am covering this for Mr. Mike here. I will run through them here. We have Dungeon Defenders Awakened for PlayStation 4 March 3rd. I know the original Dungeon Defenders was a free-to-play game and was entertaining and fun. We've got Trek to Yomi for the PS5 and the new Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC coming May 5th. It's a side-scrolling with a classic samurai movie feel. I may butcher this name, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, coming to Xbox systems May 10th. It is a side-scrolling medieval platformer. And it honestly, it wasn't terribly impressed with that one. But anyway, Salt and Sacrifice coming to the PlayStation systems and PC. Also May 10th is a side-scrolling action. And you can join or invade your friends' missions. This one does look pretty decent there. Evil Dead the game coming out on pretty much anything that's still running. May 13th. It's a 4v1. And even if you are playing the single player missions, the internet connection is required. We've got Souldiers, spelled Souldiers, coming to pretty much everything, May 13th. And is clearly inspired by the NES era, or I'm sorry, the SNES era Castlevania games.
I just wanted to go back to the Evil Dead for a minute.
Sure.
They've kind of made this game with the Friday the 13th, I feel like.
That's really what it feels like. Absolutely.
And I didn't really care for that game. So it's
It was
unfortunate.
Fun a little bit. It has its moments. And I get why if you're playing the multiplayer, you need the internet connection. But if you're going to play the story mode, you should be able to disconnect. I'm just saying that. But it does feel very much like a blatant ripoff of the Friday the 13th.
Like they just took that universe and plopped it into Evil Dead and said, here you go.
It's almost like they just reskinned it, honestly. Yeah. It looks like the same gameplay. We've got Vampire the Masquerade Swansong coming to, again, all the newer systems there. No, all of them, looks like. May 19th. And the Vampire the Masquerade video game series has a rampant following. They have not had one for many years. So for them, I really hope that this one is top notch for them. I may check that out eventually myself there.
I would agree. This is probably on my list of games I'd like to play.
It really looks good, right?
Yeah.
Dolmen for, again, everything except the Switch. Comes out May 20th. Watching the trailer, it does just look like a Destiny clone to me, though. But looks like it's got a little bit of its own flavor there, and it's not just a, straight ripoff there. Hardspace Shipbreaker for the PC comes out May 24th. It is touted as a 0G sandbox game. So it seems like you are part of a crew that is tasked with just breaking down ships and everything like that, and go where you want and do what you like. But it's an interesting concept.
I wish this was coming out on console.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun. Sniper Elite 5 comes out May 26th. Cow the Kangaroo comes out on everything May 27th. My note on that is the devs must love Crash Bandicoot, because it very much looks like they were like, you know what, let's make a new Crash Bandicoot. We don't have the license for Crash Bandicoot. Make him a kangaroo. And that's the game. I'm not knocking it in any way. I'm just saying that it has very much a very reminiscent style of it. And if you are looking for that like PS1 era platforming adventure fun on a newer system, then Cow the Kangaroo is probably something you're looking for.
I'll just weigh in quick. We've mentioned a couple new names that instead of them being franchise names, and I think for video games to continue, we need that. We can't just rely on the names to carry video games all the time, and some
That's
new
true.
Characters need to break in.
Wait, Jason, are you saying that unlike movies, you can't just go back and rehash the same thing from 10, 20, 30 years ago? That sounds crazy.
Sorry to be talking crazy talk, but I've been concerned, and I've mentioned it on here before, and everyone kind of shushes me, but I'm kind of concerned on the direction of video games. just because it's either going so far to free to play style, chintzy, about 8 hours in, you're tired of it, to it has to be a franchise big name to get released. And I don't feel like the games in the middle that we saw in the 90s, in the 2000s, on PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 aren't being made anymore, because they either have to be a huge hit or they have to be so dumbed down that they don't have to make money. And so I'm happy to see some of these kind of filling in that middle again.
And I disagreed with you before, and I still say that it's a fantastic time for indie development right now. I think perhaps you're seeing less of it on consoles, but more so on your platforms like Steam and things like that. I think that's where the indie developers have kind of migrated to. But we won't get into that again, Jay.
Oh, that's a separate topic, though. It's like the PC versus console. I'm saying on console.
No, and you're probably right there. On console, it has to be shovelware or it has to be AAA. And I'd like to argue with you on that one, that the middle games are still there, but for the most part, they've been developed for a different system and ported. So, yeah, you've got me there. Continuing on, we've got Pac-Man Museum Plus for yes, if it can run a game, absolutely. Comes out May 27th. I mean, is there a system out there that doesn't have a Pac-Man game somewhere? I don't think so. And yes, this game exists. SnowRunner, PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox Series on May 31st. If you saw Ice Road Truckers and you said to yourself, man, those guys have got it going on and I need to be an Ice Road Trucker, then pick up SnowRunner. It's the game for you.
So this feels like that game that was in that middle group on the 360, that like you showed up and like, hey, maybe for $9 I'll play that.
You know what's bad though is the graphics are gorgeous. Like they really look good. And I'm like, you're a game about Ice Road Truckers. Why are you could have gone like 32-bit on that and you probably would have been fine. But no, they've got full realistic trucks and everything. But anyway, that's
I think that would be fun on the Oculus, actually.
Okay. You found something that made me go, okay, maybe there is a redeeming thing about that. You're right. That probably would be fun on the Oculus. Yes.
I don't know if that was listed. I don't see it listed as an option, but if it gets released on the Oculus, I think that could be fun.
All right, fair enough. But that is your video games for the month.
All right. Well, that takes us to what have we been up to lately? My son just had a birthday and he wanted to rent a theater, which we did. And we watched Bad Guys with his friends.
How was that?
It was very good.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like Zootopia in a way. It has a very unique animation style that I've kind of fell in love. I've kind of started to like. The characters are all pretty cool. It really centers around a group of bad guys that are bank robbers, and they've done it all as a crew. They have all the loot they could want. They just like being bad guys, and they're compelled to change their ways. And that's a hard pattern to break.
Did you know that this was a book series?
I did not.
Neither did I. Until because I couldn't come to the theater with you guys because my family was celebrating Easter, and my nephews are in book 8 of the Bad Guys, and I'm like, wait, what?
See, and all I could think of in my head was just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are a bad guy.
Thank you, Zangief.
I also watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I finally got a chance to watch that. Have either of you seen it?
Yes, I loved it. Fantastic.
It takes you through every emotion possible,
Yes.
right to tears. I'll be honest. I
Tom Hanks is phenomenal in that.
He is. And the scene that got me is they're on the train and all the kids start singing. Um, uh, and then you get done with the movie, and I'm stuttering a little bit, sorry. But you start thinking, gosh, wouldn't the world be a better place if we didn't have a few million of Mr. Rogers running around right now instead of the people we do? No offense to you people, but
I
We have a
based on
few
his
too many
story, I
snitches.
put him, Mr. Rogers, is what I call one of the modern day saints. Like he's that good a guy.
and I'm sure he had his bad days as well, because
And
everybody
he'd be
does.
the first to admit it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I was reading a little bit about him, and like it was so rare that people could interview him because he would quickly start talking about them and feeling for them, that no one could ever really get to know him because he so quickly diverted you into about you. And so I remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as a kid. It was rare I got to watch it because it interfered with my mom's soaps. So on the rare days that I could watch it, it's just the powerful messages that he had, and the fantasy world that he created with the puppets was just amazing.
And that was actually the reason I wasn't allowed to watch Mr. Rogers. Because my dad was creeped out by the puppets. And so I wasn't allowed to watch it unless I was at someone else's house, and then I could watch Mr. Rogers.
And my son's struggling a bit right now, and there's a couple messages even in this movie that appreciating yourself, and loving yourself, that I almost wish I could get him to sit through it, but he would not, just for those messages. And I also read The Eighth Confession by James Patterson, continuing that book series that I've talked about before. It's set in San Francisco. They're usually dealing with some sort of mass murder type thing that they have to hunt down a bad guy. This one's no different. The stories are starting to feel very much like, let's pull this killing spree out and let's put this one in and let's let them figure it out. And we'll see if that continues, because there's like 22 books in the series, and that's a lot of plug and play writing. So we'll see. So I'm done.
Okay. As far as what I have seen, I did see the Batman, and I'll take a minute here just to kind of talk about the Batman, because of course we did have Mike Anstead here on the podcast saying that it was the best Batman movie ever written, to which I disagree. I first off, when the movie starts off, I did not care for it. I did not like it. I didn't like what they were doing with the characters. I didn't like the story. Fortunately, it does get better as the movie progresses. There were some style choices I didn't care for the fact that, like, Wayne Manor is all black inside and out. Black is the only color, and I'm like, okay, that no, that wouldn't have happened. But and Robert Pattinson, I thought did pretty well as Batman, but I really didn't like him as Bruce Wayne. Really did not. And yeah, but I'm in the minority because the sequel was just greenlit today, and it's doing really well. A lot of the movie with the second half of the movie, I'd say, was actually pretty good. The first half of the movie, I all honest, I was close to turning it off because I was just that kind of disinterested in it. But yeah, Past
It would-
that,
It would make
Go ahead.
sense that everything had to be black though, because that's where vampires would live.
that was never the Bruce Wayne thing, though, man.
But Robert Patterson's a vampire. I mean, they would have to film
I
it.
know you're trying to goad me. I know you're trying to do it. And it's working. Yeah. So anyway, past
Was
that,
his girlfriend unable to smile?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
no, she did.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Jeez. I did watch a couple of the 13 Nights of Elvira. I have enjoyed that. Also watching some Mystery Science Theater 3000 as their new season is prepping for their open to the public launch here coming up this month as the podcast comes out. And as far as reading, I finally bit the bullet and pulled Magos by Dan Abnett off my shelf, which is a collection of the smaller stories surrounding that his character of Eisenhorn, and then a book 4, which the foreword of it is, I didn't mean to write book 4. I just meant to write a short story, but then I ended up with a novel. And so I was like, okay, all right, fine. But yeah, I'm enjoying that thus far. So far, I'm still rereading some short stories that I had previously read, but I'm enjoying them in concert with each other. As far as video games, I have been continuing my run on XCOM, enjoying that as always, and also playing Sheltered on my PC, which has been criticized as being a bit too simplistic and everything, but the hunt for resources has really hooked me. And it's about managing what you need to keep your shelter going and the risk and reward of sending your people out, into the world to get resources. Do you send them close to, the stuff there, or do you send them really far out to and expend a good deal of your water supply? And water is one of the big things that you have to watch out for. And like the other people in the world, like I didn't even know this, but today there was a random event that just killed one of my survivors just straight up. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that was even an option. Yeah, and that has been what I have been up to. Oh, and I gotta mention this. I did come across some old Star Wars comics, and I've been reading some of those, and also some of the old Gambit annuals. So I've been reading those as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I guess I will go ahead and go next. I was not able to participate last month because there has been a lot of changes in my life. Recently, I kind of sort of got married.
Oh, right.
That kind of happened. I started a new job, and I literally just last week passed my first exam for being like certified for what I'm going to be doing. So that's super exciting.
You notice how he kind of slid it earlier in the pack. Oh, my wife.
My wife, yeah.
Yeah, we lost like half of our viewers when they were all hoping he was still an eligible bachelor.
Sorry, off the market, my bad. As far as what I've been playing, actually my wife and I have been playing Red Dead Online. Really enjoying that. She loved the game, and I did too. And then I had played the online portion on the console and really enjoyed it. And she had never tried it. Well, then I got the online for the computer, and I said, oh, I'll play it with you. And so I've been experiencing it with her, and she very much agrees with me. It is a very different game. Yes, you are playing the same, like the controls are the same and whatnot, but the way you experience the world in the online version versus the story is very different. And she really enjoys that too. So very worthwhile, she says. I've been playing some Deep Rock Galactic with friends and sometimes by myself. So enjoying some space dwarf mining, good stuff. Very excited about the new season happening. I think it's tomorrow. And a new gem I just found and am super excited about. I have very much a passion for some older games that I played when I was younger, and one of them was Sim Golf. I don't know if you guys ever played it, from the Sim series back in the 90s and 2000s. Unfortunately, Sim Golf does not run on modern computers. You cannot get it to work. I've tried so many times, and I've had a longing to play a game like that. On Steam is a game called Golftopia, which is kind of a futuristic type game, but it plays just like Sim Golf, and I'm like, woo! I get to play a game from like when I was younger. This is really exciting. I actually sat down and watched some of the Marvel shows that I did not get a chance to watch because I don't typically enjoy watching the TV series.
I'm not caught up on Moon Knight.
I'm not there yet. I went back and I finished WandaVision because apparently I stopped literally the episode where it starts making sense. So that happened. It ended. I liked it. I thought it was really good.
I thought WandaVision was excellent.
I then decided to dive into Winter Soldier or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I was not excited at all about. And I was really surprised. Like I actually enjoyed that show a lot more than I was expecting to.
It's always good.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's always good when you have low expectations, because then the worst you're going to be is pleasantly surprised.
Well, you're going to hear about that in just a second. No, I felt it was very much a show of gray. Like the bad guys didn't seem so bad and the good guys didn't seem so good. So it was very much wow. So I liked that. That was a really good thing. And it did something which I really was happy with. It kind of explained life after the blip. Like it kind of talked about actually what was happening in the rest of the world, because, people just reappeared. Like, what do you do? Yeah. So I liked that. I was excited about that. And then I just started into Hawkeye, and I had really high expectations for that. And so far I'm 2 episodes in and I'm like, this is not exactly what I was hoping for. So
stick with it.
Okay, I'll stick with it. But so far I'm not as excited.
Yeah, no, stick with it.
Got it. I can do that. Reading, I'm feeling the pull to read The Sword of Truth again. Like I've been feeling the itch in the back of my head, and I'm like, I might have to pull that out.
That's a time sink right there.
Oh yeah, I know. And there's a couple of the books toward, like, not after the main series ended, but like afterward that have came out since, and I'm like, I really kind of want to read those too. So
that's a series that once it ended, I was like, I don't know that I can go back. Because there are some books that you can enjoy, and they're a heavy, weighty material, and you feel good once it's passed, but like while it's happening, you almost feel like a weight on your chest. And the Sword of Truth series is that way. And it's like, man, I don't want to know if I want to take that elephant's foot, put it back on my chest again. I don't know if I can do that.
Yep, I get it. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, as long as we're crowing here, I just want to show off the bookmark I just got today. Ash just got me a Believe with spaceships and space planets there, because she knows my appreciation for it. So
yeah. I don't believe it.
So Jason, end this podcast.
No, I have to share a story then. About the believing. So I'm walking one night. It's dark. It's just after sunset. We're in the northern hemisphere, unfortunately too far north, but that's a side point. And I see up in the sky this series of lights, and it looks like a plane pulling Christmas lights across the sky. I'm like, what is that? And I'm getting my phone out and filming it, and it just disappears. And I'm like 2 miles from home walking, and I'm just like, okay, I got to walk past like, a cemetery and some dark stretches. And I'm just like freaked out a little bit at this point. Get home and I'm like, okay, what would cause a string of lights in the sky? It's the Starlink satellites. They haven't separated. And they're just all following each other. And you can only see them like right at sunset when the sun's still hitting them.
Wow.
That's
And
so
I'm just
cool.
like, now I'm kind of disappointed because I was really hoping that someone would come and save us.
Listen, I'm not saying it, but aliens.
So, I mean, Starlink is probably just going to take our brains and we'll all become mindless human bots anyways. But,
The biggest evidence that there's an intelligent life out there is the fact that they haven't contacted us.
that is true.
They look at us and go, ooh, ooh.
Humans?
They're squishy and they don't taste that good.
We've probed enough of them. That's not that interesting.
All right. On that note, until next time.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.